The best use of the word pig is by a guy that we know at the track, and his name is Omar. He is a long shot player. He's constantly extolling his horses to continue running by yelling, "Stay with it, you pig! Stay there, you pig!" I mean, where you're being demeaning. It's almost like you rooting for Florida State, Lubie. Where you're just absolutely horrified at the possibilities of how badly your team is going to fade, even when they're well in command of the game. And that's one use of it. But then at the same time, you'll have guys cursing a horse in the very same race, screaming, "Don't die, you pig!" Even at a strip club, you don't hear the word pig employed as often as you do at the track. And the various uses of it, I think, are kind of fascinating. I'm surprised some English language professor hasn't studied track vernacular.
I just love that people I've heard you guys talk about, oh, that fucking pig. But I haven't heard people using it to root on a horse that hasn't lost yet.
Yeah.
You haven't lost?
Keep going, you pig.
Why is it a pig before it loses? What if it wins by like 3 lengths?
Because the horse was a pig, or it wouldn't be a long shot. Very, very creative use of the word pig. And, part of the racetrack vernacular. I don't know why it isn't a course offered in Florida schools.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on another edition of a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday version of the program. Jeff DeForest along with Mike Lubie Lubitz. And I'm thinking about, I guess we should examine the age-old question in sports talk. And that would be, if ever I could leave you. How could it be in springtime? There's always that debate. We've had it here on the show. I don't know that there's any definitive answer to it, which is why it's so much fun to talk about. And that is, which is the best, most exciting, most interesting time of the sporting year? Is it springtime, Lubie? You got pitchers and catchers and spring training, and you got all kinds of different things going on. Or is it the fall, where you have just a conundrum of events that all come together in a perfect storm of excitement, including the advent of the National Football League, which comes your way in a couple of weeks now that the preseason is over. And college football got underway this past weekend. Burial! All the wise guys that thought that Navy was going to cover that 20 and a hook point spread. Absolute loser. Stone loser. This Sam Hartman guy, did he not ratchet up his chances of winning the Heisman Trophy? I know that Caleb Williams had 4 touchdown passes in a round as USC took on a patsy and beat him 56-28. By the way, failing to cover the 30.5-point spread. So you have USC, 28-point victory. But guess what? How do you feel about a win, no cover, Coach Shula? Can you really justify that victory and count it as a win? When you're disappointed and let down your fans, letting this other schmenk team score 28 points against you, is that somewhat of a bad sign? Is that a bad omen for USC? Their defense was horrendous last year. They could not stop the Little Sisters of the Poor, and that was unfortunate. But so they failed to cover in their first game, but they do put on a spectacular show. Caleb Williams, he's not odds on. I guess what are you getting 2-1 on him to win the Heisman Trophy? I'm not sure. Very prohibitive odds. And so he makes his case. But this Sam Hartman, I mean, I'm not sure what the circumstances. Will we ever know the details of what enticed him to go to Notre Dame after spending more years than Blutarski spent at Faber at Wake Forest?
Well, he wasn't being mentioned as a top 2-round draft pick. So to go to the NFL was dumb, and especially out of Wake Forest. So it's like, all right, let me go somewhere else to get my publicity up to try and get myself into the first round. Notre Dame needed a quarterback desperately because their head coach is really good with defense, but their quarterback play was not good. So they enticed him to go there to try and get himself into the first round. And they also are getting him sick.
You don't think there were more tangible enticements than just
he's getting
the whole idea?
Yeah, no, his NIL money is ridiculous. Like he's getting nuts. And if they keep, I mean, the Navy thing threw me off a little bit. Like, I don't know how good they really are, but they're going to play a bunch of shit teams, and he's going to be able to look really good in those games, and he'll get a lot more attention than he did at Wake Forest.
Well, they also play some big teams. I mean, Notre Dame never really dodged anybody when they were independently scheduling games against USC and Michigan. They used to play the University of Miami before they went down on that series, which is one of the main reasons why we just, I mean, I don't know that it's the main reason. I guess the sanctimony of the program and the fact that they had their own television deal and had advantages that nobody else had. And they had Cincinnati Moeller and Jerry Faust feeding them 400-pound linemen that could run 4.340s all of those years. A lot of reason not necessarily to be a fan of Notre Dame football. They do have probably more fans, more worldwide attention than any other college program. Is that a fair statement, Lubie? Even over Georgia and Alabama, does Notre Dame worldwide get more attention as a college football entity than any other university program, any other college program?
I mean, Georgia and Alabama are national. Georgia, Alabama are regional. Like, as good as they've been. Well, Georgia's only like 5 years. It's not Georgia. No one gives a shit about Georgia. Alabama has been 15 years or so now. They're still regional. Like, people in California don't give a shit about Alabama. People in the Northeast don't give a shit about Alabama. It's not like they're like a Florida State or a USC that, like, when they were really good, they were fun. They're more of a, they've opened it up a little bit the last few years, but they were more grinded out defense, which is boring. Nationally, no one gives a shit about that. Notre Dame was national. Notre Dame, you're not wrong, is more worldwide. Like, Notre Dame is a thing.
Worldwide. They played in Ireland, filled the stadium.
You'll see Notre Dame, Ohio State, a little bit like Ken was talking about, but it's college football is more regional. Notre Dame isn't. Notre Dame, you'll see them in the Midwest. You'll see them in the Northeast. You'll see them out West. Notre Dame is just.
Yeah, Newt Rockney, man. Movies made about this school. Rudy. You're offsides, Rudy. How they didn't throw a flag there. That shows you everything you need to know about the Notre Dame program. Guy's 3 feet off sides. He practically was in the backfield before the ball was even snapped. The signals were still being called, and then it's Rudy waiting for the quarterback. Unbelievable. But Sam Hartman became the quarterback. I understand. I mean, it was much more. I mean, there were some tangible inducements. I want to believe. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Obviously, the money was probably significant, but my understanding is, Louis, and we should do some investigating on this, that a half a dozen priests had to turn in their resignation. Also. To get Sam Hartman to go to Notre Dame and admit that they were doing some things with the choir boys that probably went against the rules and the parameters and the guidelines of the Catholic Church. What do you think? Even of the Catholic Church.
I don't know why Sam Hartman is in the middle of that.
Because he wanted to do something that was good for society. And he said, hey, you know what? I don't know if I can condone the whole behavior of the people that you're sort of implying that I should be inspired by, let's say. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there, but 4 touchdown passes for Caleb Williams. Did Hartman also throw 4 touchdowns? As Navy put up 0 resistance, 0.0. They scored 3 points in the game, and that was it. It was ugliness. So people took a beating on that one. A lot of wise guys. Just about everybody, every handicapper that I either spoke with or read their material said Navy getting 20.5 in that game was a very generous allotment, and they were going to keep it close. And Notre Dame couldn't stop the run; they shellacked the run. That ridiculous strategy of running the triple option play. If you ever wanted to make a case for the offense being banned altogether or abandoned, it would have been just watching Notre Dame carve up the Naval Academy in that game in Ireland. Good theory there by the professor, though, to get Hawaii home against Vanderbilt.
God, fucking Hawaii. Did you watch any of that game?
I saw rare highlights, a few highlights of the game. It looked like they had a chance, to win it outright? Is that possible?
Multiple times they had a chance early. They were winning for most of the first
Did you put the money down on the money line at 5-1? You did?
It got up to 6-1. So I was like, fuck it, 6-1. It's like, I just did like $25. I don't do a lot. I'm not like a big time player, but
your 25 is like somebody else's 2,500.
That money goes a long way for me. 6-1, and they were in it the entire game, and then they got down by where they almost weren't even covering. They were down by like 20. I was like, oh fuck. So now we were in Orlando, so I was watching it, but not watching it. I was like, oh fuck this game. And then I'm like, all right, let me check, see what the score is. And they'd cut it down to 2 touchdowns, and we're about to score again in the middle of the 4th. So they score a touchdown with 5 minutes left. I'm like, oh, fuck. So they're down a touchdown. And if that's the case, and that means they've gone cold. I can't remember who the fuck they're playing at this point. Went cold. So I'm like, oh, shit, they might be able to stop and get another score. This could be interesting. They onsided it.
You're talking about Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Vandy.
Yeah.
They with 4.5 minutes left, they onsided it. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, why are you onsiding it? You've been stopping them. They actually almost got the fucking onside back, but the dude was sitting out of bounds as he's grabbing it. I'm I'm like, oh my God. So they actually still stop them. But then on third and an incompletion, they late hit the quarterback. So they let them continue the drive, but they still stop them. They get the ball back with like 2.5 minutes left at their own 25, and then on first down, throw an interception. I'm like, oh.
That's the problem with betting long shots. They often fail in these spots.
But they
They
cover.
are not the team making the heroic move that ends up winning the game. They're not hitting that walk-off home run like that kid Lappy did in the Little League World Series. They're the team that makes that kind of bonehead mistake where it looks like they have a recovery on an onside kick, but the guy's ass is out of bounds. And then subsequently they get to stop, and they give you rise to hope that you're actually going to come out of this thing at 6-1 on your $25, 6-1 on your 2,500, Lubie. What would have really been something? I could have made yourself a giant score at the outset of the season, but you just proved a point that we've been emphasizing on these shows for over 40 years. The minute you have $5 on a game, it takes on a whole different level of proportion in terms of meaning. Because you would have never watched 1 second of Vanderbilt and Hawaii.
No, not at all.
Unless they were just throwing pineapples around, you would have never watched Hawaii play Vanderbilt. You would have had 0.0 interest in it. But because you had money on it, all of a sudden you remember every detail. You're like Sean McVay talking about some play that he dialed up in 1987. Oh, yeah, it was 2nd and 2. I tell you what, they were playing the Tampa 2 defense. I thought we could. You're like, well, how do you remember that? Nobody would remember that. That was a minute and 17 seconds left on the clock there. We had 2 timeouts. I don't know how they remember that, but you remember every bitter, ugly, losing detail of this game between Hawaii and Vanderbilt to start out the college football season. Lubie, I applaud you for proving a point. All right, so college football got underway. University of Miami gets underway this Friday in a ultimate litmus test here. As what do they take on Ohio? Is that how they're playing? Miami of Ohio. It's Miami versus Miami.
Yes, to Miami.
I always resented Miami of Ohio. I understand our good friend Dave Hyde went there, right? Didn't he graduate from Miami of Ohio University?
Okay.
I believe he did. Okay, so do you know anybody else that ever went to Miami of Ohio?
Ben Roethlisberger.
I've never met a single person in my life. I've been on the planet 72 years. Other than Dave Hyde, I don't know of anybody that cares about Miami of Ohio. And
isn't that where Roethlisberger went? Isn't that where I think that's where Roethlisberger?
Could be. Yeah.
I don't know him, but I know of him attending that.
Letterman
school.
was Ball State, so of obscure schools. I just never liked the designation. I mean, you'd look at the scores and you'd see Miami was losing by 32, and you'd think, oh my God, I didn't even know the Canes were playing. And then bingo, it was Miami of Ohio. As they would list them as Miami. So that'll be interesting. Miami versus Miami.
Yes.
In the season opener for Mario Cristobal, who's trying to redeem himself after what I thought was just a very suspicious-looking season last year. Lubie has not been touting Cristobal as being one of the great head coaches in college football. Game day coaching. Would that be your first? I don't know. What would be your first priority? What would you want to have, a great game day coach or a great recruiter? Now, you're probably not going to have too many great game days if you don't recruit well. The recruiting situation has the dynamic is completely reversed, where instead of recruiting incoming freshmen, you're concentrating more on recruiting other teams' players.
Recruit both, yeah, that's the thing.
Which is an interesting dynamic that's come into college football, and it is beyond Wild West proportions here, where you just don't know what a team's going to look like from year to year. Good job, though, by the professor snipping out the improvement in Hawaii, and Hawaii is immediately a wise guy pick going into this coming week's game, as many people were impressed with what they did, in spite of the fact that Lubie lost his ass on that game.
They covered easily. You got the 17 and a hook. You were coasting at the end of that.
Mostly breathing fairly easily, right? It looked like there was a brief chance there where it looked like they might lose to the spread.
Yeah, but like by the fourth quarter, you were in a good position. They were competing for the outright win, so you were in a good spot. And I think that's where the professor went heavy. It was 6-1.
Oh, he said he was taking a little taste on the money line just because he thought it was worth it at 6-1.
But I don't think he went all in. His bet was the points, and I got greedy. I'm like with you with your horse betting is me with sports. I don't bet sports a lot. If I'm gonna bet sports, it's like you with golf. It's like I'm not gonna bet to win $20. Like that's dumb for me. Like when there's
you may as well take a chance, on winning some big money.
Not every money line. Like I'm not Lawrence. I'm not going the dogs all the day. But when it's like a money line that Ken really believes in, at least 2 or 3 times a year, And look, I'm not mad at him. His logical, they were there.
Oh, you can't fault the logic. I mean, you're getting 17 and a half points on the point spread for a reason, because people believe that this team is almost 2.5 touchdowns inferior to Hawaii. In the case of Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt sucks. I mean, there was a theory out there last year. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was something along the lines of that in conference games, Vanderbilt is just, are they not pathetic
They
in
have
all
been.
conference games against the spread? I think they routinely get clubbed, but when they're playing their conference schedule. And there was something else about it too with Vanderbilt and out of conference games, but I can't recall if that was a good or a bad characteristic that they displayed. But there was like a theory out there that you could cash almost as a matter of routine on Vanderbilt one way or the other. The preseason ended in the NFL, Lubie, so it was a decent start to the college football season. I wouldn't say that I got overwhelmingly immersed in it, because I'm finding now that with my newfangled cable system, El Cheapo Cable, that, I mean, what was the homeowners association? The people here, I would say, I don't know. It's not like it's an elderly community by any means. There are some young people with kids, not too many. But, it's not like the dynamic is that everybody's 70 plus here where I'm living. It's a good spot right by the beach. I mean, anybody would want to live in this location. It's absolutely fantastic. Gives you an opportunity to do virtually everything. But, whenever they signed up with this Homeowners Association paid for cable TV service, couldn't have been any sports fans on the board of directors. That's for sure. I don't get CBS Sports Network, so I wasn't able to see our good friend Mike McIntyre. I was in a position to maybe tune in and catch that game. They covered a point spread against Louisiana Tech, losing by a small margin.
Game. It was annoying. They were winning most of that game. I didn't realize they lost until Sarni told me yesterday. I was like, what the fuck? I thought they won. They were winning by double digits a lot of that game.
Well, I mean, we didn't know, what kind of improvement they would show. Pretty tough. I mean, that's another example of the only reason I turned in at all to any FIU football last year is because I was in that straight up booking opportunity with my buddy Francesco, who must have forgotten about it. He's slipping in his old age. Sent me no plays for the opening weekend of the college football season, and he absolutely loves Notre Dame. Bets Notre Dame in every game. So I would have been at least 0-1 in that spot. I'm not sure what he would have done in Hawaii Vanderbilt if he would have played that. USC, we did talk to Mark Lawrence, and he was saying in those kind of games, even though he did not make this a play and said he would lay out of it, that it is not uncommon for the team that was laying a giant point spread in the first week of the season to cover. So I kept trying to track. I didn't see where who was it they were playing? San Jose State?
Yeah.
Okay, so did they score late for a backdoor cover? Is that how that went down?
Late-ish. The USC was
Did they get the last score there? San Jose State scored the last touchdown to cover the point spread?
They were flirting back and forth with the cover. USC, I think, had the ball late, and then San Jose State scored and was under the cover, or under the spread, and then USC, I think, had a chance later to score, but then they didn't. Like they were hovering around the spread and then just fell short.
All right, well, it was a lot of fun. I mean, and if you look at the slate coming up this week, my God, Lubie, one thing we like about college football is it's expanded into almost a nightly venture. And they come right back on Thursday with here on the board anyway. I mean, there might be more games than this, but 4 games. Come back on Friday with a handful of games. Saturday, just a full schedule of games. So college football very much in swing. Monday night has a game with Clemson and Duke. Yes. And that's going to be what? In Orlando, huh? No, LSU Florida State's in Orlando.
That's Sunday.
On Sunday. Wow.
And the Gators play Thursday. The Gators play Utah, who's supposed to be good. I don't know what's going on with their fucking quarterback. Their quarterback's really good, but he's supposedly still being
Utah favored by 7 at home against them Gators.
Yeah. Utah's top 15. And that's Thursday. Yeah. Thursday through Monday we have games.
It's a beautiful thing. So, right now, I mean, in the here and now, I'm thinking fall is the time of the year. Right? We still have baseball going on, believe it or not. Marlins finally won a game after two really, I mean, just disappointing, depressing losses to the Washington Nationals. So we're no longer just a horrible team. Earlier in the year, the Nationals were one of those patsies that you had to figure that if you didn't take 2 out of 3 or sweep the series, you had failed miserably. The Marlins finally rally behind a Soler home run and take a 2-1 victory. So still in a wild card chase, but it's looking more and more dicey every day. I've seen any number of diehard Marlin fans. There are a few that post on social media, and they have thrown in the towel, man. It's Angelo Dundee time. You're blowing it, kid. You're blowing it.
I mean, their offense sucks. I mean, and look, in the Burger, Bell, and Soler's woken up a little bit. I think he had home in the last 2 games.
Soler's been good all season.
But literally every single one else has sucked, including Chisholm, who actually didn't get hurt. He just sucks. Like, their lineup is abysmal. Like, and Robertson was horrendous.
That's his third blown save since the acquisition.
Saturday. I don't know what to look, because to me, you shouldn't count on winning 2-1. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. Like,
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that was their MO all season. They were winning these close games.
But that's the thing. That's why you go and get a guy like Robertson, supposedly, is to ensure those two.
Ooh, he is a hanging curveball away from some serious ugliness. No.
Wow.
It's not like he comes in there and they're thinking, Jesus, look at this Goose Gossage guy.
He's not like Eckersley. He's not
like a Aroldis Chapman when he was on a roll there. The Cubs.
Like 5'10".
Comes in, he throws this, really like a semi-meatball up there. That breaking ball of his doesn't exactly overwhelm me. I don't know. Some of the little leaguers had better looking breaking pitches than Robertson has in the games that he's blown. Now, he has come in and gotten the job done a few times. It's who was the guy? Alphonse Seca. Remember when he was the closer? Old Six Fingers Alphonse Seca?
Yes.
And routinely, I mean, you're protecting a 1-run lead, and Alphonse Seca would come in, hit the first guy, walk the second guy, give up a dribbler, and the bases were loaded with nobody out before you even had a chance to go, to the concession stands and grab a Coke. Right? Oh, pitching change? Okay. I'll go get something. Don't worry. I hope they're still open. You have $9. I'm a little short. Right? You're buying 2 sodas. Incredible. But, they gave us a pretty good run. I don't know that they can hang in there. We'll see.
Nah, they're done.
It's not over till it's over, as Yogi Berra would say, but it doesn't look real good. Although starting pitching performances have been
Yuri
very, very good. Yes.
Sunday, I don't even know who the fuck pitched Sunday. He pitched well.
I think they had a bullpen game on Sunday.
They just
believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because didn't that Honig guy end up getting a win? He went like 4 and a change or something. I'm not sure. Maybe I've got my box scores juxtaposed. The Dolphins played to wrap up their preseason. And
it started with the Chargois guy, and then Hoig got the majority of the innings, and then it was a straight up. You're right. It was straight up bullpen game. The bullpen did a good job, and it was a nice win. But I don't know. I think
held them to 1 run. Well, I mean, they're absolutely desperate to get a victory there because Arizona suddenly heated up. And you have a cluster there of teams that are in the race, but you're at the bottom of that cluster list, a couple of games back, and now you have to eclipse and surpass, more than one team to get into a position to make it into the postseason. So not going to be easy the way these teams are playing. Jacksonville over the Dolphins 31-16. I'm watching just the beginning of that game. I went out Saturday night about 8 o'clock, so I saw the opening couple of series. Dolphin defense was getting just absolutely mushed by the Jacksonville offensive line, and I'm assuming those were starters out there.
Well, the thing that people are leaving out is it was starters except for on the defensive line. Phillips barely played. Wilkins and Sealer did not play. And those are Wilkins is a top 5 to 10 defensive lineman, and Sealer's become a borderline Pro Bowler at defensive line. And those 2 guys were stalwarts for them last year. When they were playing really strong run defense, it's those 2 guys. So that when they were running right down the goddamn
first couple of drives, I mean, ridiculous. And naturally the home team announcers are going to be trying to embellish anything good that the Dolphins do. But I mean, getting a punch out after you just let a team run flat over you right down the middle for like 75 yards, and they recover a fumble in the end zone, and Steve Goldstein was doing a game there, and he's like, that's that Dolphin D. I'm like,
The D
I
sucked.
don't know. Looked to me like they got very, very lucky there. Not to be down 7-0 inside of 3 minutes after
Well,
the
and then
start
the
of
next
this game.
drive, they went right down the field again, and then
Same
got
thing, yeah.
no, the defense looked like shit, but I'm giving them a little without Wilkins and Sealer because they got no pass rush and they weren't stopping the run. So I'm presuming they just signed Sealer. I think they're going to give Wilkins his extension in this next week. And I think with those two guys, it changes everything. They'll get after the quarterback a little bit better because they'll absorb double teams for Phillips and Chubb, allow those guys more freedom. And they're great against the run. So it'll allow their linebackers to do their job. So I actually was like, look, you don't have Wilkins and Sealer. People were losing. And I'm like, how many teams can I have their starting defensive tackles and look great on defense? Like, you don't go that deep on the defensive line in the NFL. So that was why they didn't look great. But yes, they looked pathetic. And offense looked bad too. The offensive line sucks. This Connor Williams was rated as one of the best centers in the league last year. He can't fucking snap. It's like,
oh, yeah. First, was it the second play? Yeah, he's got Steve Blast disease. You're right. Looks like Steve Sachs trying to throw the ball over to first base. Mackie Sasser. Right? It's ugliness to see that happen. Second play of the game. First play, a nice little pass. Tyreek Hill jukes a couple of guys, goes for 35 yards. You're thinking, my God, why don't you just dump the ball to this guy every play? Which they may end up doing. The health would be the issue for the Miami Dolphins, and there may be a curse. It may be the curse of Marino still hovering over the team. As look, yeah, Jalen Ramsey go down before even got out of the chute here. Tua, suspect. Everybody's worried about him. Armstead was on crutches last time we saw him leaving the field. Jalen Waddle hasn't been able to play in the
Didn't play at
preseason
all.
because he's been injured. And Mike White, the backup quarterback that you signed for a significant amount of capital from the Jets, is in concussion protocol. And then you had, again, I mean, the issue that we had been discussing, which people are probably tired of because nobody really wants to look at the ugliness and the dark side of things. But, we've been having this conversation about horse racing versus football. Can you condone the violence? And Lubie and I, like many people, have justified this away by saying, well, at least human beings are making the choice.
Yes.
They can decide. If you decide that you want to be in boxing, yes, you understand. You don't need somebody to tell you every day that there is a large inherent risk that one shot in the wrong place can not only do permanent damage, but be more than life-threatening, including people that have lost their lives in the ring. It hasn't happened in football yet directly. I mean, we've had people that were involved in various conditioning. High school kids have checked out. We haven't had somebody die on the field, unless you want to count Damar Hamlin, in professional football yet. But you get the feeling, like with the X Games, that it's not that far off.
Yeah.
Or somebody's just going to get their skull crushed, and that's going to be it. A neck snapping hit that causes that kind of injury. Is it Dyewood Davis? Dyewood, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, this weekend. I've never heard of him before, but yeah.
I want to say this, and I didn't watch that much Dolphins preseason football. I did see a bunch of highlights, but when I was tuned in, I want to say that Dyewood Davis was somewhat impressive. He's a rookie out of Western Kentucky, and 6'3", 195, by the way, just 20 pounds lighter than the Trumpster.
Same size as Trump.
Yeah. And Trump, by the way, said he shot a 67 out there on the golf course at Bedminster. And he's saying because he had security people with him and Secret Service and all of this, that they were like keeping score. They were signing a scorecard, and they were going to verify that he shot a 67. And, of course, they conduct professional tournaments there. What was he playing, a women's tees for 12 holes? Well,
he's a liar.
What would constitute a 67, and why would he expect anybody to believe that after that 215 that he put out there? I sent you that text I got supposedly from Donald Trump Jr. looking for people that might be interested and inclined to send some funds in their direction to help the poor man out and run his campaign for president. And I don't know why. I mean, usually I would never respond to something like this in any way because you're figuring it's just a way for them to find your credit card information. And all of a sudden you bought 2 Gucci bags on North Avenue in Palm Beach. You're like, wait a minute, man. How did that happen? So I'm reluctant to click on anything. And I don't do anything online. If I can avoid it, every now and then, so reluctantly, you want to type in your information. But so I thought, well, geez, if you respond to this, does that automatically set you up for some kind of informational intrusion where some scam artist in the Philippines now has everything, your bank account information and all this other stuff? What do you think, Libby?
Not, I mean, not necessarily, but I definitely wouldn't click on anything. Once you click on something, then they can definitely get you.
Yeah, you click on something, you're dead. So I don't click on anything.
Good.
I just send back to Donald Trump, and perhaps this was a little bit crass. You can tell your father to go fuck himself.
I'd say that every time I get anything Trump.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you.
and lose my number. And immediately I get a text back, and I'm thinking, wow, maybe, I mean, obviously you know that this isn't Donald Trump Jr. that's sending out texts to me. And he immediately I get a response, you are no longer part of this.
Yeah, exactly.
You will no longer be getting these texts. I'm like, oh, good. If that's all it took to stop it. They send that out to everybody. I got a text from Kellyanne Conway shortly after that. Kellyanne Conway, who was that kind of scrawny blonde that
Yes.
she was actually married to a guy who was like a left-wing Democrat.
Yes,
I think they split, which you would have to think from an ideological standpoint. There wasn't much there, right? Used to be that guy. What was his name? James
Carvel and his wife.
Carvel. Yeah. And he was married to a woman who was like a right-wing Republican zealot.
It wasn't right wing. That was why it worked. She was right-leaning moderate. He was left-leaning moderate. And
Okay, I like Carvel. He was always an interesting character.
yeah, he was great. She was a Republican, but she wasn't like crazy. It's like the guy, the Morning Joe dude, where Mika Brzezinski, they're married. She's liberal, but he used to be Republican, but again, the New World Republican made him sick. So he just can't stand Trump.
He looks bitter, that guy. I've tuned in their show a couple of
Scarborough.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, he hates it. He's a Republican at heart, but the Republicans are so fucking crazy. He just can't take it. He can't be associated.
She doesn't say much either. I mean, when she's on the show, it's kind of like when Regis's wife used to substitute for like Kelly Ripa.
Oh.
And, Regis's wife seemed like a lovely person, just like he was, but she never said much, right? Just kind of sat there. All right, we're coming back with more. We have a lot to talk about. The NFL in interesting time because you have cut down day is tomorrow?
Yes, this week.
That's when all rosters have to be trimmed and finalized with the 53. And then, what is it, 18 on the practice squad, something like that? I want to say. We'll get that information clarified for us and verified for us from Brett Tusser, the agent to the stars. He's going to join us here on the Defo Show in a moment. Now that. Well, there was so much stuff going on, Lubie. It's incredible, right? U.S. Open gets underway today. That Victor Hovland thing, he wins $18 million. Nondescript European schmenk comes through. You had the Travers, and we started talking about that unfortunate incident with a horse going down. And that was one of 2 horses that died and 7 that have perished during the Saratoga meet. Saratoga meet. You would expect this maybe at like Beulah Park, but not Saratoga. I mean, game is getting more and more difficult to embrace and just turn a blind eye to, Libby. Can you imagine how difficult that is for me to say?
Yeah, it's not good. It's something I don't know. It's just annoying that they don't have a clue what's going on. Like they have no idea because
what's going on is you have like a 1,200-pound animal running at 45 miles an hour for 1.25 miles. Yeah. And it's stressful. The horse was out in front by like 10 lengths. That's the second time that's happened at the Toga meet, where towards the finish, a horse leading by a wide enough margin that it was a cinch winner. Ended up, this wasn't right at the finish line, but wow, I mean, and it just breaks your heart. It really does. Much like, the Dolphin game eventually was just suspended when Daiwa Davis went down. Apparently, he's not in too tough of a shape. No, he's in concussion protocol. He was released from the hospital and has full use of, a movement of his extremities. So came out of that a lot better than people had anticipated. Mike McDaniel was actually crying at the press conference. I mean, he got really choked up. This guy is some interesting cat. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that I noticed the music ran out. I was aware of that. It's 7:38. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
The simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tesler.
Welcome back to the show. Peel yourself off the mat Monday here on the Defo Show. We always like to peel ourselves out of our coma by getting some strong, solid inside information and perspective from the agent to the stars, Brett Tesler, who joins us here on the show right now. And Brett, how are you, my friend? We wrapped up the preseason and ready to go. A very exciting time around the National Football League.
Yeah, here we are. So regular season starts here in less than a couple weeks now, and be very interesting to see what happens in the next 24 hours with the cut downs and see how rosters end up changing from there, because you're going to see some quality veterans get let go in situations where maybe a younger, cheaper rookie edged them out, but, you know, guys who still have plenty of gas left in the tank and can go to a new team and really make a difference and at least be a good season-long solution for what may otherwise be a hole in the roster. So it'll be interesting to see the way that plays out here over the next 48 hours, because once the guys get let go tomorrow, then you'll see what happens with waivers in the following 24 hours. And so it kind of plays a little bit of a game of roster musical chairs here over the next 2-3 days. So we'll see what happens when the dust clears.
Like in the preseason, as we're watching, we all have an idea of what the battles are, how guys are doing. We feel like we have a clue where they stand. But like, look at the Dolphins for their receiver spot. There's like 6 or 7 dudes vying for like 4 spots. As an agent, how aware are you? Like, do the teams keep the players up to date? I know we see Hard Knocks, but I think Hard Knocks is a load of garbage. Like, how knowledgeable are you as an agent and the players of where they stand? Like, you guys know where you stand going into this last week, or you really have no freaking clue?
I'm extremely knowledgeable. I've been doing it a long time, and so I'm able to sort of see through the read between the lines, if you will, because as far as any feedback that any player gets from coaches or whatever, you can really take it with a grain of salt, because there's been situations where I've had guys that thought they had it made and they end up getting let go. And then there's other situations where you have a guy that you think has no shot, and surprisingly, he ends up making it. Really, the way to figure it out isn't based on what the team's words are, but what the team's actions are. You can tell based on practice reps that guys are getting. Obviously, you could see how much preseason action a guy is getting. You could see when he's getting in the game. You could see who he's getting in the game after, how many guys at his position he's coming in after. You could see how many other guys are coming in after him, if anybody. And it's not too difficult to do the math at that point and start to get a very accurate assessment of what to expect.
Saw a lot of activity, including a trade involving Trey Lance, who was beaten out for the backup job with the 49ers. And Sam Darnold, another guy who was highly drafted and thought of by the New York Jets, who bombed out now. I don't know if he bombed out in a couple of situations, but hasn't certainly come close to any expectation you would have for that high of a draft pick and that big of an investment. He beats him out for the backup job. He ends up as a backup in Dallas, which was kind of interesting. So there was really a big flurry of activity. And now, is this a period of time where will we be seeing trades before this final cut down comes up?
You could, because if a team knows they're going to be getting rid of a guy,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt to reach out to other people around the league, especially if you know it's a quality guy that other teams may want. It doesn't hurt to reach out to other teams and see if you can get something in return, even if it's just a conditional pick. Anything is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And that's, it's smart business, instead of just discarding a guy who could end up getting claimed on waivers. And if you're a team that wants a guy, what does it hurt to give up a conditional 7th round pick? If another team may claim that guy on waivers before you get the chance to, so you have nothing to lose by making a trade like that. And in regards to the Trey Lance trade, I frankly think it was a win-win-win. I think it was a win for Trey Lance in the way that it's clear that he needs a fresh start. When you're drafted as high as he was by San Francisco, obviously to be the franchise quarterback for the next dozen or 15 years. And not only are you never able to earn the starting job, but now you're not able to earn the second job or the third job. It's pretty clear that it's time to go from there. And it's a smart move by the Cowboys, because look, you're getting a guy who was a top 3 pick, quarterback nonetheless, incredibly talented, prototypical size, prototypical arm strength, prototypical athleticism. And so now to take a risk of, a handful of millions of dollars, which, by NFL standards is not a lot, and giving up, what was it, a 4th round pick?
Yeah.
But, it's not a bad gamble, in my opinion. And lastly, I think it's a win for the 49ers. And a lot of people would say, how could you say that after they traded 3 first-round picks and I believe a 3rd to move up 9 spots to get this guy who, as of now, looks like one of the biggest draft busts in memory? It's because you get what you can. And at this point, you got to cut your losses if you're them. And you can't think about what happened 3 years ago. You have to do what makes the most sense now. And a 4th round pick is still a strong pick. They got him off the books financially. They got his salary this year off the cap. And so I feel, again, like it was a win-win-win for everybody. And to those who would say that San Francisco really screwed the pooch, so to say, and that people like the head coach or the general manager should be in hot water over this, I would agree, if not for the fact that this is the same regime that also drafted arguably the best tight end in the league, the best linebacker in the league, the best defensive end in the league, signed in free agency, one of the very best running backs in the league, drafted one of the top receivers, one of the top overall offensive weapons in the league. So these guys have hit so many home runs that every once in a while you're going to strike out. I don't care who you are. And if you're going to strike out, let it be because you're trying to find a franchise type quarterback. And those guys cannot in later round. And those guys
kind of losing you there in digital hell, Lubie. Is that just on me, or is that?
No. It's Tess. Let me call him back.
See if you can call him back. Jamarcus Russell comes to mind as one of the all-time biggest busts. Getting back a 4th round pick for a guy that you traded an enormous amount of draft capital and moved up. And I remember it was kind of a surprise, right? When that name was announced, and I thought, wow, that's the guy that they wanted. Colossal failure, but in their defense, they also have a guy starting for him now that they drafted in the 7th round.
Well, and and Tess, are you back?
I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Where I was going to go is, it's funny because everyone it's quick to go down the list of failures from Shanahan, both as a coach and with Lynch, as some of the failures with the draft. And yes, as a Dolphins fan at the time, I actually was frustrated because I wanted Jamar Chase. Well, the Dolphins have gone and gotten Hill and Waddle's worked out. So the Dolphins, people go down the list of the players they got, and it looks like they did really well with that trade. And it looks like the Niners failed that trade. But if you're able to get your franchise to look, and people still have questions with Purdy, if Purdy is a guy we saw for most of the last year before he got hurt, then you got your franchise quarterback for a ridiculously low contract, and now you're able to haul off Lance. Like, is it a failure or a win? Because, again, like you just said, they have as much talent in that roster as anyone, and it's all draft or, like, smart trades with McCaffrey. And, like, whether you get your quarterback in the 3rd pick or the 7th round, getting your quarterback's all that matters. Like, it seems like you're leaning toward it doesn't matter that Lance failed. Like, where are you? Because people are starting to give them crap, and I'm like, can you give them crap when their roster's as good as anyone in the league? They're as big a contender to win the Super Bowl as anyone, and they do supposedly have their quarterback.
The whole can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah. No, we thought you were stunned by the question there, but
no, the situation between Lance and Purdy, it's a bad luck, good luck. They ended up swinging and missing badly on one, but then they ended up closing their eyes and hitting one out of the park with the next, drafting a potential would-be franchise quarterback with the very last pick in the draft. So, again, when you look at all the great players, I'm not sure what you heard or didn't hear what I was saying before, but when they drafted the best defensive end in the league in Bosa, and they've drafted, maybe the greatest all-around offensive weapon in Deebo Samuel, and they've drafted arguably, the greatest linebacker in Fred Warner, and they've drafted arguably, the greatest tight end in Kittle in the mid to late rounds. These are the things that give a regime the benefit of the doubt. And the 49ers certainly deserve that. They really are one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the league, just in terms of talent up and down the roster. And that's why they so aggressively tried to make something happen by getting Trey Lance. It didn't work out. Hindsight's 2020. To their credit, they cut their losses. They moved on. That's what the great teams in this league do. Bill Belichick will cut a first-round pick if it's just obvious to him that there is no way that guy is going to develop into a good player. That he will not waste time. He will not waste a roster spot. He will not waste cap dollars. And that's what the great teams do. The 49ers hung in there for a couple of years with Trey Lance. The writing was on the wall. Purdy emerged as the guy that it appears could really take that team possibly all the way. And so, again, it's a fresh start for Trey Lance. Cowboys acquire a hell of a talent for a minimal investment, and the 49ers get him off the books and out of the room. So it's no longer a distraction. It's no longer the albatross that hangs over the team. So they did what good teams do, and I think they figured to have a hell of a season over there.
All right, Chris Greer, McDaniel, and whoever is in on the decision making for the Dolphins probably slept in the office last night, and as they're looking at their roster and other teams' rosters and players they might be able to pluck, what should they be specifying in terms of interest at this point? They do have injuries we were talking about, and Armstead, who everybody hails as being this great player, which as noble as he is, he's availability is a key ability in many cases. We've heard that now become sort of sports jargon cliche. And he's not always available, and he's going to start the season a little bit tainted. Where should the Dolphins be looking? I mean, is it possible that they can score an offensive lineman at this stage that's actually going to be a difference maker?
And the reasons you just mentioned about Teron Armstead's lack of availability is the reason why the Dolphins were able to get him in the first place.
Yeah,
because obviously it's a huge gamble. There's tremendous upside there when healthy. You're talking about one of the top few left tackles in the league. And obviously when not healthy, not doing much to really be able to help a team. So that's the gamble you take when you go ahead and, get a player like that. And I'd say when you look at the rest of the offensive line, it's quite possible that maybe there could be some players available, either talented young guys who are mid to late round picks that maybe need a little more time to develop, but have the tools to translate into a good player at the next level, or as we discussed, some of the veteran guys who maybe teams are trying to go a little younger, because it's very possible that on another team, a team's third guy could be better than one of the starters here. And so if that's the case, I think they'll be keeping a close eye on that. And then, of course, there's always every other position that teams will look to, to upgrade and to try to get a little more younger, talented, cheaper, whatever the case may be.
And I have to give Mike McDaniel. I mean, I don't think you can feign this type of sincerity, but his he literally teared up talking about this Diamond Davis situation. So that was impressive that he cares that much about the players. And you would deal with this. I mean, and there were many times. I don't know. I mean, you probably played on teams like I did, where you thought, man, does the coach even know I'm alive? And Lubie kind of touched on this earlier a little bit, where and you mentioned that you're often absolutely shocked as to what the end result is about making a team or not. But with so much riding on it, and I don't know, did you see Diamond Davis? I want to say, did he have a shot to make the team? And what was his status? Not that his health isn't the most significant thing, and it seems like he's going to be okay. But yeah, I mean, what did you know of him as a player? Because I could swear I saw him making a couple of pretty decent catches on the inside when he was in games during the preseason.
Yeah, so obviously he's a guy with good size, a guy who, as you mentioned, did make some plays. There's a lot of people at that position, and unfortunately, in the end, these teams can't keep everybody they want because Berrios, Hill, Waddle, Chosen, Cedric Wilson, these guys are all good guys. And then you've got a mid-round pick from last year. You've got a couple other guys like Craig Kraft and, guys who've been around for a couple years, few years, and also have a little experience. So anytime a undrafted free agent is in a situation, it's always a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of an uphill battle. And that's what it was going to be for him. Naturally, it was an unfortunate injury. Thankfully, it looks like he's going to be fine, as you said. As an agent, I've been in that position before where I've had clients who end up getting taken off the field on a board. It's not a very happy experience. So most importantly right now, just thankful he's okay. And, we'll see what happens here in the coming weeks for him as it relates to his career.
All right. Well, we wish him all the best. That was certainly, another one of those incidents where, you're saying, my God, I mean, how often is this happening here, even in the preseason? A couple of weeks away from the regular season. And Brent, we'll look forward to talking to you all throughout the year. It's always great. Thanks so much for being with us. Good luck. How busy do you anticipate being over the next couple of days?
Oh, I'll be busy because, we'll have some young guys who maybe just missed the roster, whose teams want to keep them around on the practice squad. But then some other teams may reach out and want to put them on the practice squad as well. So we'll have to do a lot of research, have some conversations, make some difficult decisions on this end. But in the end, cream usually rises to the top, and a good agent usually helps the cream rise to the top. So I will be busy, and my clients will be patiently waiting to see, again, how things end up resolving themselves here in the next 2-3 days.
And you've had a lot of success with players that were on various practice squads, eventually getting an opportunity to play and then even cash in on some big contracts. So it's a worthwhile position. A lot of people kind of dismiss it. If you don't make the 53-man roster, we don't know about you anymore. But the practice squad, for the player's standpoint, is a very, very valuable asset. Brent, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for being with us.
All right, guys. Have a great week. Talk soon.
Good luck, Tess.
All right, very good. Brett Tesser, the agent of the Stars. Going into last season, I remember people were touting, and for good reason, it seemed, that the AFC West was just a killer division and probably was the premier division to watch in the National Football League last year. That turned out to be anything but the case. You would have to say the Chargers have been disappointing with my man Justin Herbert there, as opposed to Tua. But have they really accomplished anything of any great significance? Usually they're losing games. This Staley guy is mystifying as a head coach. Not sure how he retained his position after some of the horrendous decisions that he's made.
28-3 over a young Jags team and a first-year coach in Peterson at that place, and lost after he was
exactly. Yeah. Denver, we all know, was a disaster last year. As Hackett as the head coach, that was Hackett is what he did. He hacked it up pretty bad. To the point where Sean Payton comes in and says, this guy might have been the biggest bozo in the history of coaching. Rich Kotite, you're off the hook, Kotite. You weren't the worst. Coco, don't worry about that 1 of 15 and fail forward fast.
Fast, yeah.
Which was a stupid saying anyway. Even that was a failing effort by Coco Cameron to be clever. Pathetic. He's probably he went on, as an offensive coordinator. What, LSU? Where was he?
He was
still in football now. I mean,
I haven't heard his name in a long time.
How after you bomb out to that level, do you come back as a highly respected anything? But he was bozoic. All right, so you had Denver. They were a disaster. Russell Wilson looked like he was a shot fighter. We'll see if Sean Payton can restore his ability to look like a somewhat real quarterback. You had the Raiders, who we thought were going to be very good. Las Vegas Raiders, and they were, not necessarily any great shake. What were they, about a 500 team?
They weren't good. Yeah, they were a disaster. Yep.
And the Chiefs, who
won
it all. Yeah. So that was the talk last year. There's none of that talk this year. And people are looking at the NFC East now, at least according to a very informal consensus that I've formulated off of things that I've read. NFC East. Philadelphia, obvious reasons. New York Giants, I mean, I'm with you. I'm not sure I'm a believer in Daniel Jones, even though I was touting him as not being as bad as you said, Lubie. But is he really the dynamic quarterback that's going to take a Giants team to eclipse what it did last year when they surprised a lot of people by going 10-7, something?
They were 9-8. They weren't good.
9-8. Okay.
They shouldn't, and they won in the playoffs because the Vikings shit the bed. Because the Vikings all year were this team with this great record that no one believed in, and they fell over themselves in the playoffs. Like the Giants weren't. The Giants caught a lot of people off guard, and this year people are going to be ready for them. I feel like they're going to take a step backwards. I don't understand the expectations for the Cowboys. Like Dak Prescott's never been.
Cowboys, everybody thinks is going to be some stellar team this year.
I don't get it.
They always disappoint.
Yes.
You can count on them. It's much like with New York Jet fans, right? You can almost always, consider that they're going to be disappointing you by the midway point in the season, no matter how fast of a start they get off to. And the Commanders, I mean, how good can they be? We love Ron Rivera. Seems like a real decent human being. They have new ownership, so you don't have to despise Dan Snyder and the organizational stench that he left. But, it doesn't look like any juggernaut, does it? The Washington Commanders. And that is a stupid name, isn't it? The Commanders.
They probably will change that name. It's a dumb name. To me, it's the AFC East. Because no one knows what to do with the Jets. And I don't know what to do with the Patriots. But those three rosters, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills, are fucking loaded. Like, if you look talent-wise, what the AFC West was last year is what the AFC East is this year. The talent is in the AFC East. What will they be? I don't know. The Jets and the Dolphins' offensive lines are abysmal. And the Patriots' quarterback play is going to be fucking atrocious. But on paper, talent-wise, it's the AFC East, and it's the AFC East by a lot. Like, those three rosters are really full of talent, offense, defense, and special teams.
Are we ignoring the obvious that the Buffalo Bills will repeat as AFC Eastern Division champions?
They're my favorite. This idea that I talked with you, weren't with me. I talked with Frank Schwab. I did a Believe last week, so we hadn't done Believe in a while. Yeah. And Schwab was going through, he went team by team of every team in the NFL, and he said the Bills are the team that people want to move on from, and they're wrong. He's like, we're forgetting the Bills because Allen had led in turnovers, and they sort of fell flat. They had a bad They had one bad day on the worst day in the playoffs last year. But if you look at where teams ranked, offense, defense, special teams, only one team ranked in the top, I think 12 on all of them, and the Bills were top 4 offense and defense last year. Like we moved on from the Bills just because we want to, but he said when you look at talent return and what a team was all year last year, the Bills are as good as anyone in football. And he picked them to win it all. I don't know if they're going to go that far because I think they're going to take a step back, but they're still the class of the AFC East until someone unseats them.
They unraveled and did themselves in, it seemed like, at the end of last year.
Yes.
They started showing signs of vulnerability, including in that Dolphin playoff game.
Yes.
Where, I mean, you almost get beat by Skylar Thompson. That was horrendous. But they had some games at the end of the regular season last year, I want to say, that were of a suspect nature in terms of thinking that they really were going to sustain being a powerhouse that they demonstrated they were capable of being at different times during the course of the regular season. They were playing some great football, the Buffalo Bills. But we don't know. I mean, when you're vulnerable at the offensive line position, which, no matter how dynamic your offensive players are, if your quarterback is getting crushed like a grape on virtually every play and going Ben Gazzara and having to run for his life, never a good omen. And not necessarily a precursor for success, in terms of being a playoff tough team that can, manage to go all the way. Buffalo, I don't know. I think we're sleeping on the Buffalo Bills a little bit. They really look scattered at the end. And Josh Allen went from being this brilliant quarterback to being a guy that, left you thinking, hey, is Cleo Lemon still available for a couple of snaps? No, when those guys lose it, I mean, they go helter-skelter. They're throwing picks. They're, fumbling. They're losing 28 yards on a sack, doing stupid things, fumbling, bumbling a handoff, dropping a snap. I mean, all of a sudden things start to go haywire and you start making clown plays. And that seemed to be happening to Josh Allen last year. All right, much to discuss here on the program. Thanks to Brett Tesser, the agent of the Stars, for joining us. No NFL action next weekend, but 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks. I guess it gets underway on a Thursday night. And I believe I am without Amazon TV with this new Fugazi cable system. Yeah.
You should still have your streamers. You should still be able to do Netflix and Amazon. I mean, it's its own thing.
I do have Netflix, yeah. I might have Amazon. I'll have to check that out.
Amazon's its own thing. Amazon has nothing to do with your cable. It's a streamer.
Let me look at this remote here real quick.
Yeah, as long as you either have a home button that brings up your streamers or you have on the remote, it'll have like Netflix and Amazon.
Oh, I do have Amazon Prime Video. Would that be it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You don't lose that. You just, whatever your live TV has now changed. We're used to
this thing is put together in such a fakakta fashion that I have 2 different remotes. One for Netflix, and I guess I didn't see the logo there for Prime Video. Yeah. So we're okay there. Going to be able to watch those Thursday night games. Who is it on Thursday night? Do they have that already? NFL Week 1. Oh, Chiefs Lions. Look at that. Dan Campbell in action right away. The entire Lions team is betting on the Chiefs in that game to raise funds for their fallen brothers who have been suspended for gambling on football games, which, holy Alex Karras. I mean, what are we talking about here? The dumbest thing, too, we'll get into this after we take a time out here on the show. Have we done that yet? No.
No, I've been playing music for 15 minutes.
You get your money's worth here. We've just been babbling for an hour. So peel yourself off to my money. I haven't even touched on. I mean, how about this kid, man? Walk-off home run, World Series. Did you see this guy?
Oh, I didn't watch any of the.
6'1", playing for California. Little Johnny Jones is like 4'10".
Oh, he was 6'1".
6'1", this kid. Yeah, he had like 5 home runs in the College World Series.
Oh, God.
They intentionally walked him. I mean, even when like the bases loaded, it was one of those type of guys.
Barry Bonds type shit.
Yeah. Now we don't care. We gave up a run there, but it was worth the trade-off there. If he hits one out of the park, we're done. It's really weird, too, having the coaches come out to the mound there, the way they talk to these kids. I mean, holy Angelo Dundee. They know they're mic'd up, so, they're not going to say anything really stupid, but, and the kids crying. I mean, it's crazy shit to watch this stuff, huh? Talk about the exploitation of children.
I haven't watched. When I was up until college, I would watch it a little bit,
Yeah.
Now it just weirds me out. I'm like a grown-ass adult. I'm like, am I really watching a 13-year-old? That's not my nephew.
I watched more than I would care to admit to.
Like I'm
'Cause it
coaching.
brought me back to my Little League days. Right, when you were standing 40 feet from the batter, and no matter what you threw up there, it was going to look like you were Nolan Ryan. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. We'll get into all of this stuff here on a Monday edition of the Defo Show. Now that. It's 8:09.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Hi, guys. If I could squeeze in two. One is just, can you say with certainty that Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the roster on Sunday?
I can't guarantee that anybody in the world will be alive Sunday, so I can't guarantee who will be on our roster on Sunday. So that goes for all of us.
From South Florida to the entire world, thank you to the iHeartRadio app. Here is Defo joined by Lubie on the Defo Show.
You would think that reporter asked about Pogoshin, right? At some press conference at the Kremlin. Hey, you think that Pogoshin will be on the roster there? Will he still be among the ranks of generals in your army, Vladimir? And, Putin naturally fires back. I can't guarantee this man will be alive. And he means it. Which, Kyle Shanahan, that's just a thing of beauty. This Little League World Series, and you kind of demonstrated this earlier this morning, Lubie, when we were talking about the Hawaii Vanderbilt game, a game that you would not have given a flying fuck about at any other time and for any other reason, but that you were encouraged by the professor to put $25 on the money line at 6-1 on the Flying Hawaiians there, the Rainbows of Hawaii.
They call them the Rainbow Warriors, I guess.
Yes, Rainbow Warriors, man. Oh, no, that's your theme song there. Flower State.
I don't know what their tune is.
Wouldn't it be some Don Ho song or something? I don't know.
I'm like Jimmy Buffett.
Tiny bubbles. How'd that guy make a fortune, man? I mean, you talk about being a Hawaiian Elvis. Don Ho, man. Certain people in life that, they just kind of get really, really lucky. I don't know. He might have been a wonderful human being. He probably was. I don't mean to demean, or diminish or tarnish the memory of the great Don Ho. But whenever he appeared, like on one of these, main island United States television shows, where he's on like Merv Griffin or something, you're like, well, where the fuck is the talent? This is what they do in Hawaii. I don't know if I want to go there, man. You can have all the pineapple you want, man. I'll just buy a can of Dole and stay right here in Brooklyn. Not an immense talent. But you were all in on this thing, and you remembered chapter and verse, exactly what happened and transpired in the last 17 minutes of the game, described it in great detail, as if you were doing an ESPN highlight show. And this was the only game. And that was over $25. So I happen to be in a bar, and I'm watching yesterday this ABC. It's not even on ESPN 6 or something. This is ABC is televising this.
Okay.
And it's the Little League World Series, and all of a sudden, how they put that little thing up, and it's it's always kind of stupid, I think, because you're asking an 11-year-old, what your favorite movie is. What do you expect them to say? Citizen Kane?
Yeah, I hate when they do that. That's the stupid.
What's your favorite toy?
Kids like 6'4".
It's nuts, yeah. So they put up about this little kid who came up, I think, with like the bases loaded and hit a little tapper to the pitcher to end the inning, and they put up that his favorite food was a chicken sandwich.
There you go.
All right, so all of a sudden, when this grounder, this little tapper goes out to the mound, I hear this guy yell, "You know what, kid? Take a chicken sandwich and shove it up your ass." And then the guy was grousing, that he had money on the game.
Oh my God.
And I thought, well, I mean, that proves the point. You put a few bucks on a ball game, it could definitely change the dynamic of your character.
Oh my God.
Shove a chicken sandwich up your ass, he told this little kid. All influenced by the fact that people are putting an exorbitant amount of money on things that they otherwise would find. I mean, how meaningless is Hawaii Vanderbilt to open up the college football season, Lubie, unless you're getting 17 in a fucking hook?
I mean, it ended up being a good game. Like if you were, because there was either no action or it was like the Notre Dame game was the one game that was like, okay, maybe I can watch this. And that game sucked from the beginning. Like Notre Dame just jumped on them. USC was, I don't even have Pac-12 network, so I couldn't watch it because it was close until like the third quarter.
Yeah.
So that was when you sort of could watch. Hawaii Vanderbilt was close the entire game. So like at least if you wanted some football.
Think about what you're saying here. It's like Bowling Green, Kent State.
I'll watch it if it's close. Like,
would you invest time and energy to watch these games? And don't you start thinking, that maybe your life isn't of much value? When you would rather be sitting on a couch doing nothing. Here you are in the Sunshine State, my friends. And, you're thinking, wow, I should be scuba diving, spearfishing off the Keys. I should be out playing softball, maybe even getting involved in Messi Mania, going out kicking the whole soccer ball around with the kids, right? No, you should never do that. Don't ever put your kids into soccer. Sorry, I didn't want to get distracted there. But you're watching this meaningless football game only because you have money on it. That would be the only incentive whatsoever. Yeah.
I mean,
much like this guy with the Little League World Series. Can you imagine? I mean, is he ever going to go and say, hey, you know what? Let's see what these cats from El Segundo are going to do. Think they're playing a team from Curacao. Let's go watch that.
No, never.
Much less on TV. Your life is a waste if you're sitting in front of a television set and you're saying, that's entertainment. Although I would rather see this Lappy kid hit than Giancarlo Stanton. What do you think?
Oh, he's rough now? I haven't heard anything about it.
Oh, Stan's been horrible. I mean, he's like 0 for the last 200.
Oh, Jesus.
And, just limping around there, trying to explain to people how he's below the Mendoza line. Imagine you're paying like $27 million a year to this guy. It's a paltry sum now compared to what guys are getting since. So, the 10-year contract can be its own prohibitive substance there. Although it's nice to have $300 million guaranteed. I guess that's enough for me, Lubie. That would do it. I wouldn't need much more after that. If you're Giancarlo Stanton, you're going to live a very good life. In spite of the fact that, he's hitting like 200 with a handful of home runs. And, he got hot there for like 7 at-bats, and that was it. But, these little league guys, I would say, the entertainment quotient, what was it there? They play a little more efficient than it was in my recollection of what Little League Baseball was like when I was involved in the Belmore Little League there. And I forget the name of the team that we were on, but it seemed like we always played the Bankers, like every night, the Belmore Bankers, which there was one bank in Belmore, and we used to, I think it got held up every day. Used to have, can you believe this, Lubie? Used to go into the bank and deposit whatever it was, which would be, a relatively insignificant amount of money today. You put like $25 in a bank and feel really good about it. And they actually wrote it down in a book with like a pen.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding?
Or they stamped it, $25 deposit, and here's your new balance, $237.60. Mr. DeForest, you should be very proud of yourself. And that was it. But I think somebody came in there with like a ski mask and a gun virtually every day. You'll be happy. I don't know. Was I imagining this, or it was Damian Lillard? He does this Gatorade commercial, and in one of the shots, wasn't he wearing a Heat jersey?
No.
Not that hasn't happened yet?
Not in a commercial, but he's definitely not hiding he did an interview last week where he wouldn't talk about the Blazers, but he talked about loyalty and honesty and trust, and he was very laying it on thick.
Those words are tossed around very generously.
He was using it to talk shit about the Blazers. Is what I'm saying. He was doing more Instagram videos where he was playing stuff that had Miami in it.
Yes.
He was being very clear, like where people keep saying he's going to go play.
He was standing next to DJ Irene doing the thing with
He was talking
the
about
turntable.
Butler, and he was talking about like he's been very clear. For us that have forgotten about it and thought, okay, maybe he's just going to be there, and who knows what this is going to be. He hasn't. He's making it clear. I do not want to be there. This Joe Cronin guy's a fucking scumbag, and he lied blatantly to me to my fucking face. And I'm sorry, but that's not cool. I don't want to be there. Like he's laying it on thick. We'll see if he's willing to play there or not. To me,
Joe Cronin, the former commissioner of the American League,
the GM of the Blazers.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I'm thinking Joe Cronin's got to be in the casket for many, many years at this stage. Seems like an odd guy to be the decision maker. No wonder the Blazers have been shit since they had Bill Walton.
He's a newer GM. I don't know if he's been there since Walton, but he is an idiot, and he's being exposed as an idiot. But
Maurice Lucas, man, remember him?
No, look, I
my God,
never really watched him.
That was one mean motherfucker. That really was for the Blazers. Yeah, Maurice Lucas. Yes, I mean, he looked like he would be happier if he knocked your teeth out than scored a basket and played that way. But they haven't been good for a long, long time, huh?
No,
Trailblazers.
Early
it rains there every day. It's a sucky place to live, I think. Unless you're running marathons or you're Steve Prefontaine, why the hell would you want to live in Portland, Oregon? Walton might have liked it, right? Because he was kind of half of a woodsman also.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see him in the lumberjack shirts.
Look, Lillard wanted to be there. Lillard signed an extension last year because of all these promises they made, and then they had him sit out the last month to get a draft pick so that they could trade it for a haul, and they made the draft pick, and now they're building the roster around the draft pick. So it makes no sense for them to keep him. He doesn't work with this young roster, which is fine. So trade him. The fact that they're stomping.
But we saw this though with Aaron Rodgers, right? Where you're saying to yourself, look, we all know that this is going to happen. So, yes. When's it happening? I mean, what leverage did Green Bay have to just continue to hold out? Same thing you would have to think with the Portland Trailblazers. And, I mean, that, the Heat supposedly don't have enough to make it really attractive. But what's the difference if you're getting nothing? And, you're going to have the proverbial disgruntled player, which in the NBA, that seems like the last thing that you want, especially from the one guy. It's one thing if some Scribini is disgruntled, he's not getting enough playing time. But when your star guy that's going to average 30 points a game for you is not happy about the situation. And already, I mean, making these kind of Trump-like defamatory statements about Cronin, which is uncharacteristic from Lillard, who always comes across as just like, a sweetheart of a guy, right? The kind of player that you would want on your team.
It's not Kawhi where he's like bitter. He's just like very quiet about his business guy. He was Blazer for life guy. Like he didn't hide that. He was very loyal. And like, that's what I don't understand what the NBA is doing. Like this stuff where you're punishing Harden for calling Morey a liar. But if Morey's a liar, why can't he call fucking Morey? Like if Morey promised him he'd make all these fucking moves, and then Morey didn't make the moves, why is Harden it's weird that I'm defending Harden, but I actually
defending James Harden. Wow.
But it's the truth. He got fined $100,000 for calling Morey a liar. But Morey was a liar. I'm like,
we don't know. I mean, what transpired there? I mean, the league doesn't seem to have a very favorable view of James Harden at this stage. He's kind of made a mockery of.
Oh, he sucks, but still,
who's empowered there? I mean, is Adam Silver running the league, or is James Harden? All of the other top superstars pretty much have been able to dictate what they want. And, if you're looking at it from a fan standpoint, well, I mean, the fans, remain loyal no matter what? Is that a true statement? Lubie, if you're a fan of the Brooklyn Nets, are you happy with the mess that happened when they assembled the big three, which you would have to be somewhat suspect of going the big three direction after what we saw there, no?
Well, at least when you put
such ugliness.
Yeah, personalities together that are jerk-offs. I mean, Kyrie with Harden, and then even Durant sort of turned into like an ass.
Yeah.
The three of them together. I mean, well, we said it from the beginning. Look, it's like, I don't think what's going on in Phoenix is that. Like Beal and Booker don't seem to be jerk-offs, but it's like a light version of that. It's three dudes that want the ball and are into themselves together. But that was like on steroids, what they did in Brooklyn.
Well, and plus you had, guys that were head cases. Durant wasn't so much that. I mean, Durant goes out and plays basketball.
He'll always play.
No matter what the
He'll
circumstances,
play.
he goes out there and plays. You have to give it to him on that count. Harden, you didn't know. I mean, Kyrie Irving, his indifference at different times was more baffling than the indifference in a 7-year relationship. Once it's really festered into place. All right, so we had all of that taken place, but I thought I did see Damian Lillard in a Heat jersey in one of those shots, and then it begs the magic question: have you ever run into Serena Williams at a Subway?
No.
The likelihood of running into Tom Brady.
No.
You're in there just looking for your usual tuna melt. It's like, that one that's off 95. It's like the size of a postage stamp.
Yeah, the little last one. Yep.
Yeah. It's off 95 in commercial. You get off there and, you miss it. You absolutely blow by and you go, whoa, that was a Subway. Although the idea of eating at a Subway doesn't attract me enough to compel me to ever go into one ever again.
No, I used to years ago. It's been a long.
I actually liked them at one point.
I used to love Subway, but
Yeah.
when you hear all the reports and stuff, and they can fight it all they want, and now there's so many sandwich shops all over the fucking place that do a really good job. I'm okay. That's why they have like 14 different celebrity people representing them, because no one will eat.
But how unbelievable is it that these people are actually embracing Subway sandwiches? Now, you have to be kidding me, man. Now, if you said, you were going to see Steph Curry at a Las Espadas, I would say, all right.
Maybe, yeah.
Obviously, somebody got in his ear and said, if you want a great sandwich, this is the place to go.
Yep.
Or any of the other, fine places. There are many, many great sub shops, even here in Miami. Why would anybody of that stature ever walk into a Subway? And now the big deal is, hey, look at this. After 30 years in business, we decided to slice this stuff fresh.
Yeah.
Instead of taking it out of a package of Louis Rich cold cuts. Slapping it on a piece of bread. Well, it's fresh baked. That I'll give them.
Yeah, the bread's solid.
Yeah.
The meat sucks.
And, how many times have you been in the Subway? You're the only person in the store besides a person that's attending the counter, and they're texting on the cell phone off in the corner there. And I'm not one of these dickheads that wants to, go, hey! So I'm standing there, just, the person is aware there's somebody in the store, and they never look up. It's kind of like the bartenders in the Bahamas where, they never look up. And then after you're sitting there for an hour waiting to get, some fakakta drink, they look at you and say, oh, I'm sorry, we're closed. Like, what?
They're not even open.
Not even open. Speaking of opens, the U.S. Open gets underway. U.S. Open, and naturally I'm excited about that. I've already got a little tennis channel on here in the background, and they're showing some replays of U.S. Open action. Some good matches right out of the chute. I don't know if it's anything overwhelmingly competitive. We do have odds here on these individual matches. And you do get some interesting things where you have guys that are kind of on the comeback trail, and they become entangled in very complicated and difficult roads to advance, including tough matchups in the opening round. You remember this kid, Dominic Thiem, man? He looked like he was going to be a dominant player on the men's tennis circuit, and then kind of succumbed to some injuries. He's been fighting his way back, and he goes against this guy that's kind of interesting named Alexander Bublik in the first round. That's the first thing that's up here, men's singles in terms of odds. You get plus 135 on Thiem. I think Bublik probably blows him out, no? What do you think, Lubie? You're going to get involved in any of this individual match betting?
No idea who Bublik is. I've never even heard that name.
But Bublik's good, man. He's a strange cat. Kind of a lanky, tall player that booming serve, and he's a real character. In interviews, he's kind of enjoyable because he'll get up there, and a lot of tennis players play it fairly straight. But this guy will just come out and say things, and it's not like he's Kyrgios. He's kind of Kyrgios, but on a very pleasant. He's enjoyable, and you're kind of rooting for the guy after you hear him speak a few times. But, he's a good enough player. This team doesn't have enough steam there. So there's your first play of the U.S. Open. Bublik, I don't know. Are you going to lay 175 or just stay out of that match, Libby?
I wouldn't go near that.
Coco Gauff, you have to lay 1,100 to win 100 on Coco Gauff today against Sigmund Freud, Laura Sigmund.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with Laura Sigmund, even though I watched a lot of tennis. So Coco, one of the favorites, among the favorites to win the tournament. Who is there, right? She beat Swiatek
No idea.
in that tournament. What was that, Cincinnati? It was just a couple of weeks ago. Beat Swiatek to get to the finals and then won the tournament against Mukova, who is somebody that's been a strong factor in the women's draw. You would have to think the men's side, though, is going to be the usual suspects, no? Talk about much anticipation and great anticipation for an eventual meeting in the final, Lubie, of the young upstart and superstar Carlos Alcaraz, one of the most exciting athletes I think anybody's ever seen in any sport. Carlos Alcaraz, a very exciting player. And, of course, Novak Djokovic, who could he be any more steady? You talk about Rock of Gibraltar. This guy is so solid at 36 years old that he's within an eyelash if he wins this. He came like within a few points of winning all 4 Grand Slams at 36 with all of these young upstarts that are in the field. Do I take a sniff on the hard courts on Matteo Berrettini at 80-1, Lubie?
Oh, God.
Nah,
Maybe. I have no idea.
the swashbuckling Italian. What do you think? He's been up and down and battling injury. And Tsitsipas, living proof that women weaken legs. Since he's been doing it with Paula Badosa, which, look, I can't say that I blame the kid. You talk about tennis hotties, Badosa right up there, and was actually on a fairly substantial and significant ascent on the women's side, but has been injured, and I believe is already withdrawn from the U.S. Open. So the only place you'll be seeing Badosa, it'll be, is in so-called George's box, as they say.
Right, there he is, Roger Clemens. He's in George's box.
Might get the shot of the box where they're imploring Tsitsipas to come on, and you'll see the lovely Paula Badosa there. But that gets underway, and it should be a lot of fun. If it is Alcaraz and Djokovic, wow, but what a gigantic year those two guys have had as they sort of have assimilated themselves together as not just the 1 and 2 guys in tennis, but with a tremendous. It's either going to be the changing of the guard, Lubie, or does the old guy hang on and teach the youngster yet another lesson? And that was kind of the case there, as it looked like Alcaraz had everything going his way the last time they met. And what was that? That was the finals, also, I believe, in Cincinnati. And it turned out that Djokovic had just enough. He looked like he was completely out of gas. He really did. He looked like Diana Nyad when she got out of the water there in Key West. Had the jellyfish on her head and, staggered out of the water there and said, I made it. What are there, like 4 people there? All right, Diana, way to go. What was their obsession with swimming from Havana to the United States?
No idea.
Was that some kind of political statement? Yeah. Was she with their, the brothers to the rescue? What was that? Los Hermanos? How did you say that?
No idea. I don't know. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. I know Diana Nyad. I don't know what causes anyone to do any of these weirdo shit where they have to go across the English Channel and like, who gives a shit? I don't understand what you're proving. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. I mean, if you're like trying to sell exercise videos like you're Jack LaLanne, of course, you tie like 16 boats, around your neck and you drag them across the English Channel. This woman, though, put herself through absolute mental and physical torture in order to come over here and, showed up on shore. But, Djokovic looked just like her. I mean, if you can, foster up the image in your mind of Diana Nyad when she finally stood up. And, we were like, wow. I mean, you talk about, look like Chuck Wepner coming out of the water. Round 15, Cleveland, Ohio. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. The U.S. relay team, by the way, both of them ended up winning at the World Track and Field Championships. Yeah. Man, these cats were flying. The people who ran the final leg, for both the men and the women in the 4x100, I have never seen legs move that fast in my lifetime. At a Heidi Fleiss pool party, the legs didn't move that fast. It was incredible, Lubie. Incredible. What symmetry you see. I mean, and the Jamaicans were trying to chase him down and they couldn't catch him. It was great. Surprised Trump didn't claim that he was going to run the anchor leg. Imagine they hand the baton off to a rotund Donald Trump, claiming to be 215 and shooting a 67 yesterday at Bedminster in front of witnesses. Witnesses, Lubie.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
There was a thing at the Maroki Lanes in Merrick, Long Island, where you got a little trophy if you bowled a 200 when you were a kid, if you were under, like 16 or something. And so, after the fifth frame, though, if you were going to qualify for the trophy, you had to call the guy from the front desk to come and witness you playing. All right, so you know what the obvious, strategy was going to be, Lubie, and that's to put 5 strikes down for the first 5 frames and then go, "Hey, Joe, you got to come up here, man. Little Johnny's got a, perfect game going. Looks like he's going to qualify for the trophy." And the guy would come up, and actually that's when you had, like, score sheets. Didn't have the electronic thing, which I always, I was not a big fan of because it was so obvious that you were cheating. So we'd have the 5 strikes already penciled in, and then the guy would come up and watch you, throw 2 balls in the gutter. But he still had to stick around because based on that 5 strikes, what do you got? You got 90 in the 3rd frame. So even with a 0, you've got 110 in the 4th frame. So you're more than halfway there if you could do anything legitimate. And then the guy would watch you just, bounce the ball off your leg, your ankle. Get one of those weird splits where you got 6 pins still standing, but there's no way to make them all. Even if you threw like a bar down there that covered the whole lane. So it turned out to be absolute bullshit having the witness there. So do you think these witnesses had any credibility on the Trump thing, Lubie?
No, the guy didn't hit a 60.
I mean, what is the par there? 72? You're assuming maybe?
67. I don't give a shit how decent of a golfer is. He's not a pro. I'm okay.
No, every video of him, if there is any, which have you noticed is very little. I mean, if you're shooting a 67 and you're Donald Trump, don't you have, cameras all over this?
Yes. He's become like or ill. Like, he literally just lies about, he invented.
For the sport of it, yeah.
His hole-in-ones. And, yeah, no, he just lies to lie at this point. It's just fucking funny.
Incredible. All right, so we're coming back with more in a moment here. We're on a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:36. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
You can't fake caring. Women can sense this immediately. You don't really care. You didn't really want to do any of this.
We now return to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday, a couple of weeks away, a little less than that. They're going to have Thursday night action in the NFL a week from this Thursday.
Yes.
College football with an enormous slate of games that begin on Thursday night. I guess will be the first activity. When do you start playing Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday night football? College football.
They don't play Mondays. They'll start playing Tuesdays, I think, in October, November, something like that.
Yeah. I tell you what I can't wait for, and that is I wasn't going to watch any of the ESPN Monday Night Football games this season, and then I realized you have Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call.
Oh, then yeah, you have to watch now.
Whoa! I tell you what, I mean, ESPN has a bizarre feeling. Clearly, I know nothing about this, right? What the appeal of these people are, but would it influence you at all, knowing that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were calling this game? If your inclination was to watch this game, would it matter if it was, Abbott and Lou Costello and Bud Abbott?
It depends on the game. I mean, look, NFL is the one sport I can almost watch the crap teams, like if the freaking, I don't even know who's the second. The Cardinals are playing the Patriots. I could probably still watch that to some extent because it's the NFL, but I don't care about the broadcasters. And I love Iron Eagle. I don't watch it just.
Oh, Eagle's great. I mean, you're happy if a guy that you enjoy listening to is doing the game.
That's nice. It's a nice positive, but
it's no draw. I mean, it certainly isn't a drawing card.
Not at
You
all.
can pretty much have any clown doing it. I mean, even a guy that you despise, you're still going to watch the game. You may lower the sound or even mute it. And now, what's interesting is, especially with the Monday Night Football game, they go right against it with a better broadcast.
I was gonna say I will seek out the Peyton Manning stuff.
Yeah.
And Eli, I don't like when they do the interviews because they don't do the game. I like watching them watch a game. I actually think that's interesting because they'll break it down and they'll also give each other shit. So they'll have fun while they also break it down, which I think is really interesting. That I like. That's only.
I like the guests they bring on there. That makes
it
it interesting to me. I mean, I want to see LeBron watching a football game.
Yeah.
Even if he's talking about, his own career substantially, that's fine because he's doing it in more of a loose, relaxed fashion than you usually see when he's at the press conference and he's all serious with the mic in front of his face. And he says, we just have to start playing better basketball. That's what we got to do. LeBron's great. I mean, because he's always been media accessible and media friendly. I mean, I think he understands the value in that. But at the same time, is he really saying anything of any great significance?
No.
Nothing special.
Mike Norvell.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, it's kind of a side note. I got a kick out of this. I'm perusing Facebook yesterday, and the UFC fighter who we've had on the show and featured him on the show, and it was kind of interesting because he was on the show while he was like driving a limousine or something. Jorge Masvidal. Who was at one time, I mean, among the most popular of UFC fighters. Kind of faded. I mean, he wasn't able to win his biggest matches. Had a great background story. It was one of these backyard street fighters here in Miami where you saw the likes of Kimbo Slice emerge as an international and recognized figure, even though he had a very short-lived career, did he not? And was he in UFC? Kimbo Slice?
Yeah,
I believe he was.
Sucked, and then he died young.
Yeah. Masvidal, I mean, seems to be prospering and maybe taking advantage of, the opportunity that he had to make some big money. He must have made some decent purses because, after Conor McGregor kind of faded out of the limelight, Masvidal was up there, as one of the more talked about guys. So he posts on social media something on some sort of fight page. And he puts up the Jimmy Smith bout, the infamous Jimmy Smith bout.
Oh, my God.
Against Tony Moscow that I had called with my friend Charles J. many, many years ago. This has to go back. Wow. I mean, you're talking early 90s.
Oh, maybe.
Early 90s we were doing this stuff. The Schlitz Malt Liquor Fight Night on what was then Sunshine Network. And we were at the Tampa Sun Dome, which was on the campus of the University of South Florida. Now, they did have some good fighters on these cards. It was not like, and it was interesting the way this came about because we were not expecting a clown show. In fact, far from it. That was the last thing you wanted to do is have a bout that could not be taken seriously. And so this guy, Jimmy Smith, comes out there and he starts doing this, like these robotics moves. And you're thinking, you haven't seen a fight like that since like the Giants came out of the dugout against the Dodgers or something. Since the Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson fight. I don't think we've seen a guy fight like this with this style. And sure enough, I mean, it got like 60,000 views and a zillion comments.
My favorite is like a few years ago, my buddy texted me. He's like, is this Defo? I'm like, oh, that stupid fight. And it's like the worst fighter ever. And then you hear a young Defo trying to call.
But it was interesting. I mean, this was a live show, and you don't necessarily know a lot of detail about every fighter that's on a card. Actually, I saw among the comments, I guess the headliner that night in the main event was Ronald Winky Wright, who went on to
Winky Wright became a big deal. Yeah,
a very distinguished boxing career. Was a world champion, I think, a couple of different times. And had kind of a roundabout way of getting there because after he had fought in his hometown of Tampa, there, Tampa St. Pete area, he ended up going to France and became a very popular fighter there. Then to come back to the United States and was in some big bouts and ended up winning some championships on national television. So had himself a very distinguished boxing career. I would imagine he's in the Hall of Fame. Ronald Winky Wright. So he was the main event in the main event that night. So this was a realistic prospect as a fighter. So you're not expecting like a couple of the one guy was clearly going to win because he was a house fighter, but you could have never anticipated a guy being as bad at what he did or was attempting to do as Jimmy Smith was, thus deemed the worst boxer ever. And it's like a one-punch knockout. The guy's just standing there watching this guy kind of perform like a clown. And my buddy and I think we did that bout a great service. Because we transitioned from, Don Dunphy, ringside to, doing a little, comedy routine, basically. There was nothing else you could do in terms of the treatment of that fight, which, normally was not going to, endear you to the promoter or the person who was making the decision at the network as to whether or not they wanted you to announce the next bout. And we were very much, in favor of keeping the job, but we sensed that there was no other way to treat that thing, and it came out pretty good. But anyway, Masvidal put that up on Facebook, and it drew a tremendous response. So there we are, still in the limelight. Mike Lubie Lubitz from shit that we did 30 years ago. All right, we have to run. It was a pleasure being with you. We'll do it again tomorrow. And, of course, Wednesday, Tony Segreto on board to join us here. Did you ever patch it up with Tony about telling him not to come out to Gulfstream?
I didn't tell him not to come out. I just wanted to get the professor trained up because next Friday and the Friday after, I'm not going to be there. And those shows mean a lot to us. They matter. And this thing is different than anything he's ever done. So I didn't want a ton of people there distracting him. Yeah. Which we got the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Segreto's always invited. We love Segreto, and he's a blast here, and he's a great time when he joins us on the Lunchbox.
I don't know that anybody has a better time on that show than Tony does when he's on it.
He dives right in.
Dives right into the food there and pretty much eats for the whole hour, which is great. I mean, that's the purpose of the show. All right, we will see you later on. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 8:46.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.